Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
No one goes to Hank's for his spreadsheets. They go for a darn good pizza. Lately, though, the shop's been quiet, so Hank decides to bring back the $1 slice. He asks Copilot in Microsoft Excel to look at his sales and costs and help him see if he can afford it. Copilot shows Hank where the money's going and which little extras make the dollar slice work. Now Hank has a line out the door. Hank makes the pizza, Copilot handles the spreadsheets. Learn more at m365copilot.com/work.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
She retired from competitive sport as Scotland's most decorated track and field athlete of all time, a Rio Olympic medalist and proud possessor of medals at European and world level. She was the European 400 metres hurdles champion in 2014. She's also got 3 Commonwealth medals, won at 3 consecutive games. Quite the CV. I'm Michael.
And I'm John, and with Glasgow's Commonwealth Games less than 3 months away, cast your mind back to the last time the city hosted the event. 12 years ago, the sun was shining, and you couldn't move in the city without seeing one person's image on every billboard. She was the face of Glasgow 2014, and is now working in an ambassadorial role ahead of Glasgow 2026.
Hi, I'm Eilidh Doyle, 3-time Commonwealth Games silver medalist and ambassador for Glasgow 2026.
And Eilidh, that volunteer role is so important. You've been at so many major championships, and you know that all that hard work that goes into putting these events on can't happen without the volunteers, the legends, as we now can call them.
Yeah, and it's different this time around as well, because when I've been involved in games before, I've been competing at them, and you're so kind of focused in on yourself and your own, preparations, and, you just turn up at an event expecting everything to be, in place and organised, that all you need to worry about is going on to the track and performing. So, you kind of almost don't take that for granted, but, you don't fully appreciate all the sort of work that's gone into, getting everybody there and getting all these volunteers recruited. So it's really nice this time around that I get to be part of that and see, meet the volunteers, see all the work that goes into it, and actually, see it from a different point of view and really appreciate, all the work and effort that these guys go into.
So as an athlete, when do you actually encounter the volunteers? I'm presuming it's everywhere. I mean, for example, Gold Coast, there would have been a volunteer meet you at the airport, take you to the hotel, stuff like that?
Yeah, everywhere. You'd like say they'll be there to guide you and transfer you to and from places, point you in the right directions of where you're going. Sometimes escorting you places if you're not sure where it is that you need to be. One of the most special things for me at the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow was the volunteers in the call-up room. Volunteers in there that were just helping you, either escorting you if you needed to go to the toilet, or even just kind of helping you put your numbers on. But just having somebody there who would also give you a little good luck, Eilidh, before you ran as well. So a really nice kind of moment there. But yeah, and I think the interactions that they had, particularly in Glasgow with the fans, there was so many stories afterwards that you heard about, the volunteers and how much difference they made on people's experiences. So yeah, they're so crucial.
And Eilidh, you mentioned the fact that when you're an athlete, you don't really think about these things. It just magically happens. Now you're an ambassadorial role at Glasgow 2026. Do you miss the kind of simplicity of being an athlete on a day-to-day level?
I mean, you miss the straightforwardness of just being able to go to championships and get a pass and get access to everything. I've been involved in a couple of championships since I've retired in the World Indoors in Glasgow, and you're just as an athlete, you just can go anywhere, and you can get bussed from your hotel to the track to the warm-up area. So it is that simplisticness of everything is arranged for you. Then all of a sudden, when I was going in a different role for the World Indoors, it was like, oh, I have to get myself from here to here. I have to get more accreditation, all that sort of stuff. I have a different accreditation. I'm not allowed in this area. So yeah, it's very different. And I think that just is testament to the organisers and, those that put on these sporting events, because they do make an athlete's life very easy, and that's, as an athlete, that's all you can ask for at these championships, that it runs on time and you have everything you need there as well. So but yeah, like I say, there's a lot more appreciation now from being on the other side and seeing everything that goes into making sure these events are a success.
You mentioned the World Indoors. It kind of gave us another indication of how great Glasgow is at staging these events. But I wondered if you ever thought about uttering the phrase, "Do you know who I am? I'm Scotland's most decorated track and field athlete of all time." Has that ever worked?
Absolutely not. There's so many amazing athletes just now doing some special things in Scotland that yeah, I wouldn't even have any impact whatsoever, I don't think. So yeah, not at that stage.
So take us back. 3 Commonwealth Games appearances for you, 3 silver medals. Obviously, the Glasgow one, I'm guessing, is the standout, but they would all have been very different because you were quite new, young on the scene in Delhi. By the time you get to Gold Coast, they're giving you the flag to carry. How do you reflect on it?
Yeah, it's so funny because obviously it was 3 silver medals, but every single one was a different coach. It was a different sort of preparation going into it, and I was at a very different stage of my career. And I'd say each one sort of set up the next one. If I look back at them all, I think the only one that potentially could have been the gold was the one in Delhi. Funnily enough, my very first games, because that was my very first medal. And I remember, so I watch it back now and I think, oh, I'm making mistakes. If I hadn't made those mistakes, I could have maybe got the gold medal. But for me, that was experience. It was going to championships, going there with the sort of expectation of someone who could go and win a medal, and then being able to deliver that and win a medal. It was all so valuable. It was the first time I'd been to a champs. It was multi-sports, experienced a village. It's probably the furthest I'd travelled at that stage as well. So there were so many learning experiences that I took from Delhi, which then allowed the setup for Glasgow. Glasgow was completely different ball game, just in terms of attention from, attention on all the Scottish athletes. We all got so much more sort of coverage than we were ever used to. And then going into that championships again, expecting to win a medal, but this time having, so much attention, having that home support behind. And then the Gold Coast, that was the same sort of situation. The Gold Coast was probably the hardest of the medals to have won because it was so close. In terms of Glasgow, Khalees Spencer, who was Jamaican, was the out-and-out favourite. I was probably the second favourite quite comfortably. So unless anything went drastically wrong, that was kind of how that race was going to unfold, and that's how it did. Whereas the Gold Coast, there was about 4 or 5 of us who potentially could be on that podium. So I think probably, yeah, that was the toughest one to win, but so special because it was my last games. I got to carry the flag for Scotland, and yeah, it was just an incredible experience. So yeah, all very special in different ways.
And you were talking earlier about places you can and can't go when you're working in different roles at the games. I wasn't allowed in Gold Coast to come and interview you in the interview zone, and I remember having to drag you to the car park. You probably don't remember this.
No, I remember it. Yeah.
We had to walk miles to record this interview. What was it like? I mean, John and I have obviously covered a number of Commonwealth Games, Olympic Games. I remember we were both in Paris, and Léon Marchand, the swimmer's face, was on the Parisian equivalent of Canary Wharf. And go back to 2012, Jessica Ennis would have had that in London. I remember BA planes coming into Heathrow would come over a massive picture of Jessica Ennis. What was it like for you in Glasgow to be that person, have your face everywhere?
I think it was worse for my family than it was for me, because at the time I was based down in Bath. So I was getting sent, people were sending me pictures of, when they spotted me, on bus stops or at Glasgow Airport, they had a massive picture. So people would send me things, and it was cool because I was seeing it, but I wasn't really seeing it, in real life. So I could kind of switch off a little bit. But my family were kind of experiencing that all the time, and they were kind of constantly getting people talking about the games to them. So I think they were all a nervous wreck. But I remember having a conversation about sort of 12 months out from the games, with my agent Greg, and he said, look, it's an opportunity to be part of this, but also, be this kind of poster girl role, along with Michael Jameson, who was the sort of poster boy. And he says, but I don't want you to do it if it's going to affect your performance. I don't want to put any, unnecessary pressure on you. It's up to you if there's something you'd like to do. And I thought about it for a little bit, and I just kind of thought, when am I ever going to get this opportunity to have a home games, and be in shape and be kind of, at my peak? Why not just try and enjoy it for what it was? And I kind of had quite a lighthearted attitude towards it. And I thought it'd be quite fun, it'd be quite funny if my picture is everywhere, it'd be. So I tried to sort of be quite lighthearted about it. But I must admit, like that week, sort of, when I came back up to Scotland, sort of 2 weeks out from the games, and we went to a holding camp, and then we were into the village, and then you start seeing your face, as you're driving on the bus to the warm-up track, and that it did kind of think, oh, okay, this is quite a lot just now. But I tried to just remain as sort of, lighthearted about it as possible, and just kind of understand that this is for this short period of time. I'm never going to experience again, probably. So why not just enjoy the moment for what it was? But yeah, my family might think differently about that.
It was quite an exciting time, 2014, because it felt very close to what we'd experienced with London, and there was a lot of, this is, we saw what happened with the Olympics, and the Commonwealth Games is just going to be a bit like that. But obviously it was Scotland's time to shine, as well as from a different part of the country. In some ways, Eilidh, do you think that the shine has gone off it slightly because we're kind of used to staging these big events now? Well, back in 2012, 2014, it was the first time in like 20 years we'd done anything like it.
Yeah, I think we felt so lucky as athletes to be able to not only just have a home Olympic Games, which was my first Olympics. So, to have a home Olympic Games, your first Olympics, and then to have a home Commonwealth Games, you just thought we're in such a lucky period of time that this is, that the stars have aligned during your career where you're going to get these home championships. And then, I got a home World Championships back in London, and then I got a home World Indoors, then I got home European Indoors. All of a sudden it was like, oh, well, we're just used to, competing at home as well. But I don't think you ever really took it for granted, because that's probably what kept my career going on a bit longer, because, my last competition was the European Indoors in Glasgow, because I just knew another opportunity to compete in front of a home crowd in Scotland was going to be so special that I didn't want to, miss that opportunity again. So yeah, I think I think you're right. I think sort of it felt very special in, that 2012, 2014 period where, you had those back-to-back championships that did feel really, I know the Olympics is the pinnacle of our sport, but in terms of a Scottish athlete being able to go to that Commonwealth Games and compete in front of that crowd in Hampden, it was just nothing else will ever kind of top that. So yeah, that was very special. But yeah, I think you never take for granted the fact that we can have these home championships, and also we can do them so well. We've got such a good fan base. So you always know when there's an event in the UK, you're going to get the fans are going to turn out, they're knowledgeable fans, and it's going to be a good experience for the athletes.
And I suppose that we can be a bit blasé about it because, as you say, we were there for 2012, we were there for 2014. We've been there, we've done it. But you know this, I know this, Michael knows this, that if Glasgow hadn't stepped up for these games, the Commonwealth Games would have ultimately just ended.
Yeah. And I must admit, I didn't think I would see the Commonwealth Games come back to Glasgow, so quickly. It would have been awful to have lost the Commonwealth Games. And I think, there's so many amazing experiences like that we've seen. And I've had obviously my own personal experiences, but I think there's so many special moments that we see. I always think back to Eilidh McColgan when she won in 2022, and that sort of image of her running down that home straight. And yeah, there's so many iconic moments that have happened at Commonwealth Games. So to have lost that, I think would have been such a shame. And again, for us as British athletes, getting to then split up and go and compete for your home nations, that doesn't get to happen, anywhere any other time. So that's really special as well. And what adds to the Commonwealth Games experience too is that you get to then split apart and you get to be your own home nations, and then you obviously come together for the likes of Olympics, Worlds, and Europeans. So yeah, there's something very unique and special about the games. So to still have it, and hopefully for it to still keep going on, is so important.
John and I have this discussion quite a lot. We don't understand sometimes why athletes wouldn't compete at a major championships. And I appreciate the arguments. You've got Commonwealth Games and then a Europeans very close. You did that, of course, very successfully in 2014. I do get it, but then I also think you've got such a short competitive career. Why wouldn't you just go for every opportunity?
Yeah, well, you're talking to somebody who tried to compete at every championships that she could, really. So yeah, I'm very much in that camp of, and you train, like, particularly in athletics, we train so hard to compete for not, a huge amount of time. You look at other sports who compete, throughout the whole year. And obviously it's very individual, and it's based on, how many races you need to peak, and in certain athletes, if they've got niggles or injury issues, they maybe don't want to sort of put themselves under that much stress. But I think, to put in all that training, to be able to do back-to-back championships. And I think we've seen sort of with I can't remember, I think it was 2022, we had sort of, was it 3 championships because of, COVID and things being postponed, and athletes were able to do that. They were able to put back-to-back competitions, and it's just about preparations. I mean, we prepared really kind of thoroughly in 2014 because, I wasn't going to miss out on the Commonwealth Games. I wanted to target that, but also I had a very good chance of, being able to go and do something special at Europeans. So, the planning was meticulous, and, we hoped it would work out. Thankfully, it did work out. But yeah, I think if there's opportunities, because you're always, you can be one step away from an injury, and you do want to try and grab your opportunities, obviously sensibly when you can. But yeah, I would definitely want to compete as many championships as I could.
Tell us about the Scottish team that's going to be competing at Glasgow a little bit, because I think I'm right in saying in 2016 you were the first Scottish track and field athlete to win a medal at Olympics since '88. But
Yeah.
it seems like that you kind of led the way in some ways, because the Scottish, certainly track and field and athletics team, have just got stronger and stronger.
Yeah, I mean, it's so different now from when I started as well. I mean, my kind of first team, I think it was just myself and Lee McConnell who were the only 2 Scots in the team. And then, the likes of Eilidh McColgan, Lindsay Sharp, they started coming through. Then you had Laura, and that's kind of next generation. And I think, it's so funny now because that was such a kind of big moment in 2016, getting that first Olympic medal for so long. But now we go to World Championships and Olympics and Europe, and we just expect the Scottish athletes to bring home these medals now. And it's funny now because sometimes even an Olympic medal is not even good enough to be your Scottish Athlete of the Year. We look back and when Laura and Josh both won medals in Tokyo, and it's all of a sudden it's like, no, you're not actually good enough yet to win because someone's got one up on you. So we have come so far, and I think, obviously it's very much endurance side that's kind of dominated, and I think that there's been so many athletes. I think in terms of myself, I think just being a Scottish athlete that's going out there and trying to be competitive and be on podiums, I think is you want to see that, because that wasn't the case for a wee while. But I think looking at the sort of current crop of athletes, there's been so many athletes as well that have had an impact on them. I think the boys in particular, Jake and Josh, they cite Chris O'Hare as somebody, and he was that kind of first athlete in terms of the male side, that because the women had dominated for a little bit in terms of numbers on teams and being on the podium. But then Chris O'Hare came through and started to sort of win medals, started to beat Ingo Brixtons that weren't really seen to be a thing that you could do as a Scottish athlete. So yeah, I think it's been a massive kind of difference, not just in terms of the medals that we win, but I think in the mentality of Scottish athletes, that they're now making teams and expecting to make finals, to be on podiums, and yeah, it's great to see.
3,000 volunteers helping to make Glasgow 2026 work. Do you think they're all going to find a reason to be in the stadium for the Commonwealth Mile? Jake and Josh Kerr and Jake White, and that's going to be a real highlight, isn't it?
It's going to be really special, I think. And I just think the fact that both of them have really showed that they want to be part of it as well. They've both kind of said straight away, no, but it's really important that this kind of factors into our plan. We both want to be there. So it's going to be a really, and it is nice. It's nice that it's the mile. It kind of mixes things up and it changes it. It's got so much history to that event as well. So yeah, I think everybody is going to be wanting to be in the stadium that night.
So you captained Great Britain and Northern Ireland in 2017 in London at the World Championships, but you carried the flag for Scotland in 2018 at the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games. So compare and contrast. Was one a highlight more than the other? Did one make you prouder more than the other, or are they on equal footing?
Oh, I know. They're definitely on equal footing. It's so hard. It's different in different ways. I think what what made the captaincy so special for the World Champs in 2017 was that was the first time the team got to pick a captain. So previous years and previous championships, it would be the head of performance would choose a captain. But they said that what they wanted to do differently that year was they wanted the rest of the team to pick who they wanted to be the captain. So for me, like, that wasn't even on my radar at all, because you had the likes of Greg Rutherford, Mo Farah, these guys in that team that who'd done so many incredible things. So to get voted that, I mean, it was probably one of the most amazing moments of my career. But then to carry the flag for Scotland, again, that was voted for by my fellow teammates, but I think I was the first woman to do that, the first female to carry the flag. So there was a little bit of history put into that. So I think, I can't carrying the flag was probably easier because it wasn't too heavy. Whereas when I was a team captain, I had to make a speech, and that was really nerve-wracking. You're trying to motivate athletes like Mo and Greg, and you're trying to sort of like, what on earth can I say to them, that's going to have any impact on them at all, because they've done it, they've been there and done it so many times before. So I'd say the carrying the flag was easier, but both were equally proud moments. I couldn't choose between the two.
Well, Michael's asked you a really tough question, so I'm going to throw in a tough question for you as well. Now, obviously, we don't talk about football in this podcast, but it is a big summer for Scotland in the World Cup football.
Yeah.
And potentially Hearts and the SPL. So, what would you prefer? Hearts winning the title or Scotland getting out of their group stage for the first time?
Scotland just getting out of the group stage? I would say Hearts winning the title. I thought you were going to say to me Scotland win the World Cup or Hearts winning the league.
I was trying to ask you something realistic.
I think I have to say Hearts winning the league. I think it's crazy. I've supported Hearts for as long as I can remember, and and we've had some amazing moments, that have come through cup games, and but I never thought like we would be in this situation. It's gone from being good fun and banter to real nerves and anxiety of because every weekend now you're not just focused on Hearts games, you're focused on the other two games. It's not going to be a fun next. Well, it could be, but it's going to be a stressful next few weeks, I think.
Just on that, what's more nerve-wracking, watching Hearts at the moment or on the start line of an Olympic final?
Watching Hearts, because you can control when you're on a start line. You're in control. This is the thing, and now I kind of understand what my parents experienced all these years ago when they would always be so nervous, and I remember actually in 2014, I don't think any of my family watched the race. Like, they hid behind the barrier at Hampden because they were so nervous, and I always thought, why are you nervous? You're not having to do it. I'm the one that's out there having to do it, but actually they have no control, whereas when I'm on the track, at least I can, have a control on what the outcome is going to be. Competing at an Olympic final is far easier than watching Hearts play.
Just before we wrap up, I mean, we've broken the matrix here. We're talking football on anything but footy. But just before we wrap up, remind people then how you celebrated at Hampden Park, because there was a football-related celebration at the Commonwealth Games for you, wasn't there?
There was, and a disclaimer to that, it wasn't necessarily my celebration. There was a small boy in the audience that asked me to do this. So I did the symbol of 5-1, which is the scoreline that took place at Hampden, in that iconic stadium where Hearts beat Hibs 5-1 in the Scottish Cup final back in 2012. So it was just a little moment. I was never going to get to do a lap one in Hampden ever again after that moment. So it went down well with Hearts fans. Didn't particularly go down well with Hibs fans. I wasn't that popular on that side of Edinburgh.
Clearly popular with your teammates, as you were saying, voted to carry the flag, voted to captain the team as well. Just then, finally, give Glasgow 2026 the big sell. You were there, you were the face of it in 2014. Can lightning strike twice? Can it be as good?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's been a lot of chat that obviously this is not going to be the same as 2014. It's a smaller version, but I think what made 2014 so special was the volunteers, was the atmospheres, and were the performances. And there's so many athletes that have already indicated, have already been selected for the games, that are going to come out here and do special things. So I think it's going to be an amazing couple of weeks. Hopefully the weather holds out again a little bit like 2014. You don't want to miss it.
Eilidh's going to sort it out. Taps off weather again for Glasgow. For Glasgow 2026, fingers crossed for that. Olympic, World, European and 3-time Commonwealth Games medalist Eilidh Doyle. Thank you for speaking to Great British Bosses from Anything But Footy.
Thank you very much.